When we fight, we face our enemy head on. And when we take their life, we look them in the eye with courage and respect. This is what makes us samurai.
What is good, everybody? We are live. Is this really loud? Let me just double check the sound, because it's a bit loud. I've fixed my mic in case you were all wondering, but I've fixed it a little too well. So I'm just gonna quickly bring the audio down a little bit because, wow, I'm gonna deafen you all. Hold on. There we go. I think that's better. How are you all doing, folks, in the chat? I hope you're all doing well. We've got a great show on tonight, and we've got a full panel. Oh my days, I've missed this. We've got all the MVPs. We've got Deezy, Retro, OT, Folky. Shit's awesome, man. We've got a proper great OG panel discussion tonight. So we're going to keep it boots on the ground. Makes a change for this show, doesn't it? We've had so many shows where it's literally been just constantly guest after guest after guest, big name after big name, developer after developer. It was getting a bit intense, so figured we'd just go a bit boots on the ground tonight and have more of an intimate show. So hope you're all excited for that. It's going to be great. Got some awesome topics and, of course, the amazing panel. By the way, guys, I'm having a few connection difficulties, worse than normal tonight. My internet is worse than normal. I have no idea why. I'm going to be investigating behind the scenes when the panel are introducing themselves, trying to get it all fixed and sorted. Maybe some background apps slowing things down. Who knows? So we'll look into that. But in the meantime, let me know how the audio is. Hope it sounds okay. Hope I'm not too quiet this time. And let's get the show on the road. Here's the thumbnail. We're going to be discussing Gamescom. We're going to be discussing the elephant in the room, the huge, humongous, completely soul-destroying $30 increase, or equivalent of $30 price increase of the PS5 retail price, and all the outrage surrounding that, and the reasons why it's happened. That'll be great to know and great to talk about, and we're discussing some other things as well. I've not got them all listed here, but it's going to be a good show. So let's get the show on the road. Let's introduce our awesome, phenomenal panel. Mr. David Faulkner, how you doing, buddy?
Doing very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm just asking everybody how the sound is. Yeah, fam, I'm good. I'm doing well. Just baby is here in 6 weeks. Can't get my head around it. I'm gonna have a baby girl in 6 weeks, bro.
It just in the window, mate.
Oh my god.
It's hard to process. We've got all the baby stuff on the maiden, having been washed, and we've got it drying on the maiden, and I can't wait, man, to hold her in my arms. She feels like a part of the family already because she's got so much character on how she kind of wriggles around in mummy's belly, and like she'll press against my hand, and I can like feel her. She's there. It's just under a layer of skin. So pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's surreal. It's surreal and exciting. I'm shitting myself, but I'm excited.
You're right.
It'll be the best thing. It'll be the best thing.
Shout out to the awesome gaming community, man. They've all been sending me tips on how to play video games whilst baby's sleeping on me. So, how to hold the baby and hold a controller at the same time. I love it. I love all these gaming tips. So, I've
Awesome.
yeah, I've also just been playing some Destiny with Deezy earlier on, so that was great. Having a blast with that. Oh man, blew my mind how good Destiny is. Have you been playing much, David?
Yeah, I've actually had a little bit of time to play, a bit more than recently. So been working through Pokemon Arceus with the young fella, as well as doing a heap of Jurassic World Evolution with him, and then the wife and I have been playing through the Lego Harry Potter series, and playing 2-player in that, and then when I get the off chance to do some games on my own, I've been trying to finish off Yakuza 6. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Been good.
Yeah, I'm having another internet spike, so it's about to drop. Fuck. I hate this, man. I don't understand why this happens. Like, it wasn't happening on the last show. The internet was perfect, and now suddenly it's just dropping.
Those heat waves.
Maybe it's the heat. I don't know. I'll figure it out at some point.
Yeah. The internet where I live goes to absolute pot when we have really windy days. Don't know why, but it's just how it works where I live.
Yeah, well, it is hot here today, so maybe that's what it is. I don't know. It's an odd one. No, but I'm glad you're doing well, brother. And are you did you watch Gamescom? Yeah.
Not really. I watched it.
I'm the same, bro. I don't know what's going on. I'm just.
I sort of had it on in the background. And any time something interested me, I'd sort of spark up. But there was very, very little in that opening night live show that interested me that I hadn't already seen. But yeah, there were a couple of parts of the Gamescom as a whole that didn't really get shown too much. But there was a couple of things in there that I thought were definitely worth a look. The Metal Hellsinger concert was pretty cool.
That was phenomenal.
They should do more of that. And there are a couple of it covered more on Twitter than it was anywhere else. But there were a heap of the smaller indie games because Australia was the country partner for the show. There were a heap of smaller indie games that were being shown. So we had a heap of journalists. Australia had a heap of journalists over there. So we're getting heaps of info on what's happening with other games. There's a couple of good ones there. There's one I'll talk about a little bit later that I'd like to bring everyone's attention because they're saying it's in the caliber of Disco Elysium and stuff like that. So, and it's a little game made in Melbourne. So
nice.
Yeah.
You've been sharing some pretty awesome clips of multiple Australian teams like working on various projects. And it's nice to see gaming taking a forefront in like a gaming industry is blossoming there in Australia, which isn't the first kind of country to think about when you think of gaming, is it? Like there's a lot of YouTubers who are Australian, gaming YouTubers, ironically, but there's not a lot of like Skill Up. You've got Skill Up. You've got what's his name? I can't remember his name, but you know who I mean. You've got multiple large YouTubers, but yeah, YouTube like yes. Australia isn't the first kind of isn't like the hub of game development, but it's nice to see it growing and expanding. So,
yeah, definitely.
Oti, how you doing, buddy? On the other side of the planet as well.
Hey, I'm good. I've been busy. Unfortunately, well, let me say fortunately, I'm working on a project. And I've had to work from an office. So this week I've hardly played any games. Basically just Gran Turismo, and I think I tried Metro Exodus just a little bit. But I'll be honest with you, my heart is just waiting for Last of Us, the remake.
Me too,
I
bro.
I'm struggling to play any other game. Okay, apart from GT7. But it's like I can't do any other. I finish Last of Us the remake. I'm that excited.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Struggle is real. I'm in a similar boat. I'm just wishing time away for the Last of Us remake. I got the pre-order ready. I'm waiting. I'm looking forward to it, man. Like the new. Have you seen the new gameplay recently released? The accessibility trailer.
Yeah, I saw that. But I also saw some of the cutscenes, and you know what I've realized is the way they do their character modeling. These guys are second to none. I mean, I was looking at that trailer, and it just looked so real that I felt like I'm in that game.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine playing a game, Last of Us 1, with that fidelity, with the new upgrades they've put. I'm just so, like, I feel like I was lucky because I've only played Last of Us twice, and that was years ago. So there's so much of that game I will be sort of feeling like it's a new. So for me, I'm just, I mean, you feel the same way. It's just exciting.
There's one game that I think the character models look more real, static, and that's Callisto Protocol. I think the character model in that game is just insane. But in motion, there is nothing that comes close to the Last of Us, because the realism of the characters, which are virtually unmatched apart from Callisto anyway, on top of the motion the motion capture, or what was it that Michael Mumbauer called it? He called it
motion
matching, and that's the difference. You can have motion capture, but motion matching is more difficult. She-Hulk is a perfect example. It is horrible. The motion matching in She-Hulk looks unnatural and almost like Shrek. Like the you know how the characters move in Shrek, it has this weird almost like mannequin-esque a movement to it, almost like they're puppets on strings, and it kind of has a similar vibe with She-Hulk and how she moves. But The Last of Us, its motion matching is incredible.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. The only thing is with She-Hulk, from what I'm understanding of, because my brother is doing a bit of animation these days, or let me say more. The problem with, let me not say the problem, but when you have very unrealistic moves, you normally have to do them by hand. And maybe that's what you're picking on. You're feeling like when she jumps too high, it just doesn't feel natural. Mm-hmm. But I would say that
the key, what do they call it? Key mapping, key framing,
key frame. Yeah. So maybe that's what you're picking up on. But in reality, that thing is advanced. It's still quite advanced how they're using it. But of course, it's not the same as video games where you have to blend the motion.
Yeah,
where you don't know what's
that's what I mean. You can explain it far better, but yeah, that's what I mean. Like in movement, characters suddenly look very video gamey when they start moving, but they look real when still. Like Assassin's Creed is a perfect example. Like the environments look amazing, but the moment the character starts walking, it's like, oh shit, everything falls apart. Whereas The Last of Us, the motion capture has this amazing kind of movement and realism to the subtleties of the movement and the nuances of how the character moves. It's amazing, very impressive.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're doing well, bro. That's awesome. Retro. First of all, before I go to Retro, I just want to give everyone a shout out in the chat. You're all lit tonight. We've got a few new faces, such as Afro Nerd Girl. Great to see you here. Sorry, the internet just died again. Afro Nerd Girl, great to see you here. Derek Trotter, good to see you here again. Twisted Sin 47, William Aguila, shout out to him. He's doing the Lord's work with a lot of his infographs to complement the information Zubitech puts out, and that's awesome. You've got Nelson Gaming, what's good, brother? I hope your mic's doing better. Ice Queen, Dawn, great that you're here. Retro in the chat as well. You're all awesome. Jonathan Martinez, Aziza, what is good? Sorry, I don't know why we've got Jaffe on. I don't know why I'm playing his content. It's just gone over. And we've also got Mary Wilcox, DE, all of you guys. You're all awesome. Anyone I've missed, you know who you are. Richard Farmer, hey brother, great to see you again. Bender of Strings, every one of you, you're all doing awesome. So thank you for being here. It's great to see every one of you. So let's get on to Retro and Deezy. Retro, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, bro. I hope you're doing well too, Lex.
Not too bad, brother. Can't complain.
Good.
Yeah. I hope that for anyone in the chat, I hope that the time that the video cuts off, I hope it doesn't interrupt the conversation. If it does and you miss anything, let me know. Just cue me. That is an actual issue. Because I'm seeing dips on my end, but I don't know how it plays out for you guys listening. So, but yeah, Retro, I'm glad that you're doing well, man. What you've been playing? What you've been doing?
No, well, I basically got to jump on GT7 for a couple of hours this afternoon before I went to bed. I've been working all week, so kind of just getting back to my free time now. Nice.
Yeah, I'm gonna. What's sleep, bro? I don't even know what sleep is now. And I've not even had. I'm gonna struggle when baby's born.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. Maybe you get used to it quick though, man. You'll be surprised.
Maybe I'll be really good at it because I don't sleep anyway. ADHD and that. That's
actually a good point. You know, you're actually going to be very handy for your wife when it comes to the night feeding and stuff.
I'll be excused to stay up ridiculously late instead of being tutted at. It'll be like, oh, thanks, baby, for staying up. You didn't have to, and I'm there like a zombie after a 6-hour gaming session on Destiny 2. Like, it's all right, love. Someone's got to do it.
Yeah, it's worth it, man. Them husband points always come in handy.
Mm-hmm. Facts.
You'll figure out how to sleep. You'll figure out how to sleep pretty quickly once baby shows up, mate. Trust me.
Yes, I think so too. That's awesome, bro. And last but by no means least, the man himself, Sir Deezy. How are you, buddy?
Hey, bro. Hey, panel. How's everybody been? It has been quite a while. I'm doing good, though. Well, better. Life's kind of been all over the place for me. If you guys have been following on Twitter. So, yeah, I've been mostly keeping to myself and just kind of shaking the bad mojo off and just kind of trying to get back to the better part of me. So yeah, it's been good. Mm-hmm. Happy to be here with you guys.
Yeah, I know, brother. You've been going through a lot of shit in your personal life, but I'm just glad you're here, man. And you've got a network of support here, and yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Just know that. Care about you, and I'm glad that you're here, buddy. So, you're excited for Destiny 2 Lightfall?
I am excited for that. I'm a big Destiny fan. You and I were playing it earlier today, and it was pretty nice just getting you back into the gist of things and kind of walking you through the system. So yeah,
I appreciate it, man. I'm such a noob at this shit, and it's been so long. I feel so rusty, but honestly, I forgot how satisfying and incredible what they've achieved with Destiny 2, man. It's nuts. Like, it blows my mind when I think about it.
Yep. Lightfall's coming, and it's pretty high up there on the thing. It's the penultimate chapter in the Light and Dark, which they started all the way back when Destiny had when Destiny's story was a meme, back in 2014. So the game's been through a whole lot of changes since then, and it's honestly one of the best times to get in. So yeah, I recommend it. But that's in the future, in the immediate, like everybody else, like OT has said. I am dying to play The Last of Us Part 1. Replay it in the same fidelity or even better fidelity than The Last of Us Part 2 is.
I'm expecting a lot of people to shut up. I'm expecting a lot of people to eat humble pie when that game releases, because when they actually play that game in its full kind of in its full fidelity and with its level of environmental density, it's just going to be amazing, stunning.
Yeah, man, I can't wait for it. It honestly is. It's honestly going to be a fantastic tide over into September. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna definitely aim to get the platinum because I never got it on PS4 or PS3 because I honestly hate trying to go for multiplayer platforms. Platinums. It's just if they tie platinums to multiplayer components, I typically just bow out and never try because some of those things are just insanely too difficult, and I'm just like, I don't have the time for it. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna go for the platinum with this one, and just make sure I, go through all those moments. It's gonna hurt playing through that, initial 45 minutes in the prologue, and I'm just gonna be like, yeah. With all the nuanced technology that they've gotten with the facial animation and how the eyes move and the small wrinkles and how they emote even more to go along with the performance, my fucking goodness, Lord. I can't imagine
it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's going to be brutal, bro. But I'm so excited. I think there are things that they're doing with this game that people just aren't I don't think appreciating until they actually play it. Sorry, the internet stepped again, so if it's cut off for a second, you have my apologies, guys. I keep getting warnings that YouTube isn't receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. So I apologize very much. I just don't know what's happening today with this, but it is what it is. Anyway, so speaking of The Last of Us Part 1 and stuff, let's get to the main event. Let's talk about the things that we're here to talk about. First of all, we I don't know what you guys want to address first. We could get the elephant in the room out the way and discuss this deal with the PS5's price increase and all the surrounding info regarding that. I know it's a juicy topic that I can't wait to hear David Faulkner's take on it as well, being a financial analyst. But I think everyone's got mixed feelings about it, and I've got my strong opinion on it. But I want to hear from the panel first. So, shall we hit that topic? Who wants to talk about this? Is there anyone who's really upset about this on the panel? Anyone that?
I wouldn't say I'm upset.
Yeah, I am. I've got to buy another one for my son for his Christmas present, and now I've got to spend £30 more. How am I supposed to come up with £30 in like 4 months? How's that? How am I supposed to save that kind of money? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, bro.
I'm not even gonna. Look, I'm not a financial analyst like David is. I understand the economics. I definitely understand the culture of what's happening right now across the world, and I get that. But I also understand that, listen, I'm also I'm not a billion-dollar company in that sense. So as a consumer, with regard to everything else, I personally, as a consumer, I don't feel like they needed to do something like that. I think being as they are, they're the market leaders. They're the ones winning everything, even in scarcity right now with everything, with stuff coming down. I felt like a price increase would have been justified. Would have really been justified if they weren't having an already stellar year like they're already having. And I don't know. I feel like this probably wasn't the time to do it. I'd probably have waited till like next January or something. I don't know. It's just how I look at it, because in the short term, it may not have any thing on it, but going into a holiday year, right when scarcity of products is starting to come down and everything, I just kind of felt like the cost shouldn't have been brought onto the consumer so sudden. And David might have different views or whatnot, but I still think $1 billion has some sort of precedent to kind of not incur such a cost onto the consumer. I know they did this in 2014 in Canada when certain things was happening, and they rose the price by 50 Canadian dollars and whatnot for the PS4. But like, that was one region. And I know this is a global phenomenon and everything that's happening right now, and compounded by COVID and everything. But like, they're still making profit. They're still the market leader. I think maybe this was something that they could have done, that they could and should do, just not so sudden and not this soon. And I get trying to get ahead of it and prepare and whatnot, but like, I don't know. I still think they had enough in the bank to kind of eat the cost, considering that they've invested in buying Bungie and buying Haven and spending on all the other studios and whatnot for however much money, with Bungie being their largest. There's still plenty in their tank that they have that they could do to shift some stuff, and like other acquisitions that money's already set aside for their acquisitions and stuff like that. With looking at the market and forecasting certain things, I think that they could have shifted some of that from there, recalculate some of those things, and allocated more funds to kind of offset this for a later time. Be transparent. Like, I love Jim's transparency in this, like saying this is what it is, but like, this is sudden. I would have said there is going to be an intent and a gradual rollout of all this stuff. And I would have preferred if, they would have looked at that and said, reviewing the outlook of everything, we intend to do this in phases. So after a certain month, after the holiday period, they'll start rolling out these price hikes and everything going forward. So that way people can plan and look, and it would kind of drive forth like almost like a fire sales kind of situation with everything. I mean, that's kind of, so that's just my view. And that's just kind of how I feel. From a business side, like I said, I understand the state of the industry, and the state of how the economics are working and how everything is with everything. But I see a lot of equivalencies being made that, well, Microsoft aren't doing it. I mean, bless their cotton socks, they even came out and said, we're not going to be raising the prices of our consoles. Don't worry, everyone. Capitalizing on the situations. But for me personally,
this is just my take. I think it's a bit of a false equivalency because, and I'll explain why. Xboxes are sitting on shelves. There's a surplus out there. Production isn't in massive demand. And with the chip shortage being close to almost over, hopefully, judging by forecasts, production for the PS5 is in highest demand it's ever been. It's going to happen, but maybe the production prices have increased. I mean, Sony have increased not just the PS5, but all products across the board. They've increased the MSRP of. So, I suspect it's because the cost of everything has gone up, and 30 quid to us, for a games console, well, it's 30 quid, but 30 quid for tens of millions of products each, like 30 quid times tens of millions is a lot. Is a lot of money, and I imagine, like you said, from the business side of point, it makes sense, which it does. At the end of the day, if you're going to have to make tens of millions more of a product, but the price of said product to make it has gone up to meet consumer demands, well, there has to be a compromise there. If you as the consumer want something, but the price has gone up for something to be made, people, I think, are blowing it out of proportion to, go figure, Xbox isn't increasing its price. The Xboxes aren't selling as it is. New. We'll jump into this after, but a new analytics have shown that it's only sold a little over 13.5 million, contrary to popular suggestions. Because my take, we'll get into that, why people think that is the way it is, but from my perspective, I suspect it's because sales are conflated with shipments, and suddenly an analyst has come out and said, well, hang on, this is how much these consoles have sold, and it's a lot less than the 15 to 17 million people were suspecting. But yeah, with that being said, it would make no sense to increase the price of the Xbox consoles when they're not needing to make anywhere near as many. That kind of hit is far more easy to take, but when you're hit with tens of millions of times over, I think that's where it becomes less justifiable. And it's like, well, okay, I know we know we're in a recession now, but we need to make tens of millions of these consoles, and prices have gone up. What are we going to do about it? But feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, Falky, if I'm just chatting shit, or anyone else. If your opinions are different, this is a group discussion. This isn't a circle jerk where we all agree with each other. I mean, Deezy has a very, very balanced, and I'd say a very reasonable opinion about this from both a consumer standpoint and a business standpoint.
Yeah, no, I'm happy just listening to other people's opinions on it. To be honest, because there's been plenty of different people's opinions on this, which have been nowhere even close to correct. And Deezy makes a lot of very valid points. There's a few items that I would challenge, but he's not incorrect in what he's saying. But the optics of it, not great. But the thing to keep in mind is, like as you said, everything else is rising. This has copped it. It's not happening in the US. There's various different reasons for that. I suppose if you're happy for me to go through it now, or do you want others to have their comments first before I get into it?
I'll tell you what, Doomsayer's just arrived. Let's introduce Doomsayer now. He's our guest for today, fam, and it's great to have him on the show. How you doing, Doom?
I'm doing pretty good in that stuff. I love the topic, and can't wait to give my opinion. But I'm not
made you put your speed pants on, didn't it? It made you hurry up.
I had to get the wife out of the house. She's going on a dinner date, so I'm like, get out of here so I can get on Woolley's show. So
I love it.
It'd be speed Crocs in Doom's case.
The crops are kind of messed up.
Well, I'll tell you what. Before we have a a professional financial business analyst make us all shut the fuck up and completely like make all of us realize like how, even though our opinions are perfectly valid, like we're all off the mark slightly in terms of, because we just don't know like the full situation, but we certainly know things from an optics standpoint. But I'm just being a little facetious here, you know. Before Folky kind of drops the mic, if you don't mind, Folky, just hold off for a sec. I'd love to hear, in addition to we've heard Deezy's perspective on it, but I'd love to hear yours, OTs and retros, first on this whole the PS5 price hike. I mean, is it something that, how do you feel about it? Is it Sony being greedy? Doom? Hello?
Okay.
Oh, sweet.
Sorry, Woolley. I don't think they're being greedy. I've actually had a discussion with David and that in our DMs and things like that. I totally agree with what Deezy was saying. I think it's the wrong time. You shouldn't have done this. They should have waited for a little bit longer, maybe next year. And that I'm just so upset about the morons that are on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And the things that they've had to say and that stuff. This is a luxury item. This has nothing to do with this is like movies, music, you know, books, things like that. This is not a necessity, okay? And that they're doing it overseas, Europe, you know, Japan, things like that, and they're not doing it in the United States. I hear, they're just trying to keep competition with Microsoft over here and that stuff. But it's a luxury item. I don't understand why, you know, people are getting upset. This is the one thing, and then, you know, everybody else can talk, but I'm in construction. And the job that I have, I do plumbing, and then I also do fire sprinklers. Last year, we have a job site that the houses were going for $500,000. This year, they're $800,000 now. That's a $300,000 increase, okay, because of the material. Our wages have gone up. This is the thing that people don't understand. I took my son this morning. We went to go get haircuts. There was an older gentleman complaining about 60 cents because McDonald's was charging 60 cents more for a cup of coffee. Food items, things like that. Everything has gone up. People just don't understand. To me, it's pick on Sony because, you know, it's Sony and PlayStation. If you're going to pick on them, well, then why don't you sit there and call out on Twitter Philadelphia cream cheese? Yeah, because I constantly hear, you know, that went up to $7.69 or something like that when it used to be $3. Pick on everybody else too.
Yeah.
It just doesn't, and I'm saving it for tomorrow and that stuff, but it's just people bitching because they want to put down Sony whatever way they can and that stuff, and that's all I'm gonna say for right now.
Yeah. No, I can empathize. I think there's a cognitive dissonance there. I mean, I heard Boomstick saying that Brap was out of touch because Sony, you know, for disagreeing with him after Boomstick he literally said that there are starving families and struggling families to think about, and here's Sony increasing the price of a current generation games console. And I'm thinking to myself, how can you even say that and not feel embarrassed with what you've just said? Do you really think a games console is on the minds of struggling families? Like, define the word struggling, because if he really thinks that struggling families are debating the price of games consoles, then I think him and me have very different types of struggling. Am I struggling financially? No. Am I well off? No. I'm not in any way, shape or form well off. I have a modest wage. I live within my means. I get by, not super comfortably. I have to be careful, but I'm not struggling. Struggling is going to food banks to get food on the table. You know.
Yeah, bro.
Woolley,
It
can
seems to be a lot of American people that seem to be crying about this increase, and that's the one place it didn't get increased.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so let me throw this to you guys, and then I'm going to shut up and that stuff. Here's the thing: if struggling families, and it don't matter whether it's in the United States or anywhere else in this world, okay, if you are struggling, the least thing that you're thinking about is, when am I going to be able to buy the Last of Us remake? How can I afford that? I don't think that's any kind of a worry in that stuff. Stop trying to sit there and make yourself look like, the perfect guy in that stuff. Listen, if you really cared about the community, take your super chats, and instead of giving it back to the gamers, which I apologize, don't give it to the gamers. Go to your local food bank. Give them the money. Take the money that you get from super chats, that you get from your sponsors, and go and help those people that are in need. But they don't go and do that. That's I can't do that. That's my money and that stuff. I don't see them helping. So shut up. That's all I'm going to say.
For me, I'll say this because I run my own company, and because of the inflation that has hit, I have had to raise the prices of my services, because I can say, we're in a recession, so I should be fair to my customers. But the problem is, I need to go and buy food. I need to go and buy resources, and even things that I need for my own work have increased. So you see, this is the problem Sony is facing. On top of that, Sony is a Japanese company. My Xbox is an American company. Sony has to convert a lot of things from their currency in Japan. Due to this crisis we're having with the war and things like that, the world has started to reach for things they think are going to be secure. So the people are running for the for the American dollar, maybe some gold, but they are not running for the yen. So you see, many currencies have gone down while the dollar has gone up. People in America are not realizing they're in a privileged position in terms of currency compared to other places in the world. So they are busy wondering what's going on, but they are not understanding. So they need to come and understand from that perspective. The other thing is, this decision was not Jim's. This affected Sony at a broad level, meaning that every Sony item has increased by the same percentage. This was beyond Jim, but people who are fanboys quickly rush and say Jim. But Jim is doing the best he can. And in fact, if you read what he said, this was not an easy decision. The other thing is, how should Sony react when everything is going up? Copper has gone up 3 times. Just look at the cost of a battery. It's gone up. If you even look at transportation costs, when Jim was talking early on in the generation, he said one of the challenges they were having with the PS5 was transportation. Transportation in Europe especially has tripled under this Ukraine crisis. The river in Germany, you can literally cross it by foot. That's how low the drought has made the river drop. So you see, you're getting so many reasons as to why things are not the same. So when Sony was busy saying, we have made a profit on the PS5 eventually, at the beginning they weren't making a profit. But what do you think that profit was? Let's even say it was $5. But you're finding components are tripling in cost. That's why I'm saying, emotionally, I can understand why people are saying, man, this was the wrong time to do it. But at the same time, Sony is not backed by a $1 trillion company that can absorb cost. And at the same time, Microsoft is in a privileged position because in terms of the economy, it's an American-based, dollar-based company. The other thing is, if you even look at semiconductors, Taiwan is in the middle of a crisis where they might be, I don't want to say invaded, or let me just say their issue with China is very serious. So it's already making semiconductors prices rise. So I feel like people don't understand what's happening outside of their borders. So it's very easy to just simply say Sony is being unfair. But when you look at this situation in totality, you begin to see it's so complex and so serious that Sony has held on until today. But if you look at other companies, they started raising their prices much earlier. Sony, in the end, because it's got the yen, really has tried. I personally think they tried their best for long enough. But if you look at even their profit margins at the end of a year, you're talking about 25 billion revenue, but then 23 billion expenses. So they only make 2 billion profit. This is going to be a tough year for Sony, I believe, due to the recession.
Yeah, facts. That's some banging points, OT. Flipping heck. And Retro, what about you, buddy? Before we get the man himself, Falky, to give us the rundown.
Honestly, I kind of wish they hadn't have done it just because of the optics that it gives off. But I understand it at the same time. I mean, it is what it is. The price of living has gone up, whether we like it or not. Component prices are up. Travel costs, fuel. When they're shipping stuff, they're paying more for fuel, more for their vehicles, more for everything now. So, as much as I understand it, I really just wish they maybe didn't do it. But I mean, I'm not the owner of the business. You know what I mean? I don't see the numbers that they see, so I don't know. Like I say, personally, I wish they hadn't have done it, but I understand it. Is it going to bother me in the long run? No. I mean, we're talking about £30 here. I mean, I spend more than that on a pizza for me, the wife, and the kids. Do you know what I mean? It sucks, but it is what it is. But listen, I want to touch on the Jim. I'm not going to have any Jim Ryan slander about me. It's ridiculous. The amount of shit I have heard about Jim Ryan. The man has been with Sony since 1994. He made PlayStation the behemoth it is in Europe. Sony PlayStation are now making more money than they ever had in their history with him in charge.
Facts.
So I'm not having this Jim Ryan slander, man. I just won't have it. The dude has been amazing for PlayStation.
I agree. Spot on. I'll never understand the shit he gets.
Building off for a little bit, man. I'm sick of seeing the dude getting slagged like he's the only one making decisions. The man's got a boss himself. He doesn't run Sony. He helps to run PlayStation. That's it. Do you know what I mean? Like, literally every decision Sony makes is being put on Jim Ryan, and I just don't get it. You know what I mean?
Honestly, like you've got one CEO of the competition saying so much shit, but not delivering. Like. Delivering a fraction of what he says. You've got the other who says and does and gets results and just does. He just does. And the games do the talking. Like, how many games have we had this year? How many games have we had last year? How many games did we get at the launch of the PS5? Now look at the competition and see what they've been getting and what they're celebrating. And it's like, and then you say fire Jim Ryan because old games are going to PC to make greedy Sony more money, and there you are lapping up their products. It baffles my head, the shit he gets when he does nothing but like knuckles down and delivers. He doesn't put himself on a pedestal to be idolized by huge myriads of fans wearing flipping hats with his picture on, with a picture of his face on them, and massive I love you, Jim Ryan kind of letters on giant boards, like Phil Spencer gets. There's none of that. It's just he's here to make a business remain a successful business in a market that's largely being dictated by the unnaturally invasive kind of and aggressive pushing that Microsoft has been doing. They've been changing the market quite a lot by Game Pass, by the Xbox Ambassador system, and the things that people say. It all comes part and parcel of that. And I think Sony having to kind of deal with the after effects of Microsoft shitting and running, and that's kind of how it feels like. They lump this on the game industry, then run away. It just let it stagnate and fester. And I feel that's what's happened to a lot of people's attitudes because of this expectation now. We're going to give you shitloads of games day one. They get hardly any games day one in relative terms, apart from maybe small indie developer games who agreed to it. But the premise was thrown in years ago, and for the last, 4 years since, there's been this expectation of like Sony to fall in line, even though that promise still hasn't amounted to anything major or big for Xbox themselves. So I'm just ranting here. I hope that makes some sense. I just feel frustrated by it.
Yeah.
But we've lost Deezy. I hope he's okay. I hope he's all right. Don't know what's happened there. Folky, the mic is yours, brother.
Right. So, first and foremost, anything and everything I say from henceforth regarding this subject is not defending Sony. I'm going to put that out there. I am not defending this at all. This is not to be taken in defense of the company. I'm not getting paid to defend the company. That's Jim's job, right? What I'm going to try and do is explain factors and causes that have led up to this and why it's an inevitable thing that's happened. And yes, the optics aren't great. The timing's not perfect. To start off with, it's not great to have it happen now, but you got to line everything up with what's expected to be coming. They've said this bad news in and around Gamescom after talking about PSVR 2 launch title and the new Elite controllers and The Last of Us Part 1's launching. So there's a lot of positive news around this not so great news. And the new Elite controllers. Is the price rise a good thing? No. Nothing rising in price ever is. Is it an unusual thing? No. They've done this. They did this in the PS4 era. They did it in the PS3 era. In all these other markets. It's not a new thing for them to do. They don't touch the American market because of the way the foreign exchange works. And Deezy was right when he said, the US Xbox and that it might have been OT said it as well. The American-based companies, they actually do well when the American dollar strengthens against everything else. So they don't have to do anything and they instantly make more money. Whereas Sony is the opposite side of that coin because they're based in Japan. When the US dollar strengthens, it can make some more money for Sony on the revenue side, but it impacts the cost side even harder. So what benefits Xbox is that they get less cost, like their offshore costs are reduced. So, therefore, it means more profit for them. So they can make the same amount of revenue, and I shouldn't say it makes more profit, it makes their losses less. They have less costs associated with it. But then for Nintendo and Sony, with the US dollar strengthening, their costs increase. So you look at the profit margins that Sony copped a 37% reduction to their profit margin in the last quarter. Went from 600 and something million to 400 and something million dollars is their profit margin. Or is their operating profit. And then they've got to use that to finance a heap of other stuff. Now, for example, they are using operating profit or cash flow generated from operations to fund their entire mid-range plan, which includes they're pushing the PC, they're pushing the mobile, the massive amount of studios that they're trying to bring on, all of that other stuff that they're working towards. They don't debt fund it to do their expansion like Embracer Group does or like Ubisoft does or whatnot. And they don't have deep pockets supporting them like Microsoft does by using Azure to backfill their Xbox division shortfalls. PlayStation and Sony, is a larger extent, they self-fund, so they always run a narrow operating profit percentage. It's always around 8 to 10%. Now, what's happened in the last 3 months, if you look at their statement of cash flows, they went from banking $2.2 billion in that March quarter because it was doing okay, and they had those record, December and March were pretty high. And the impact on the foreign exchange wasn't as big. They banked about 2.2 billion. So they were 2.2 billion in front. In the June quarter alone, they have had to fund 8.4 billion. They've eaten an $8.4 billion impact of their cash flow. Let that sink in. They went from 2.2 billion positive cash flow in March, or a starting point in March of 2.2 billion, to an $8.4 billion impact.
Why so much?
Jesus.
So, foreign exchange. That is just on the foreign exchange movement. They've had a $8.4 billion impact just because the US dollar has strengthened against the yen. They're doing nothing else. They're doing nothing else other than foreign exchange is that impact. So, and that's, well, I shouldn't say for doing nothing else. That's the impact of the foreign exchange has caused that to a degree, because it's gone, like, it's the statement of cash flows doesn't identify anything majorly different to what they were doing anyway. I mean, most things are consistent in terms of activities, but it's we're the ones that are exposed to foreign exchange. They're the ones that are copying it, and I mean like copying it, getting smashed. They're and this is in yen because I haven't converted it yet. But in the 3 months ended to June 2022, the net cash provided or used in operating activities was 430 billion yen. Like, they had to find 430 billion yen, whereas the same period in 2021 they actually banked 198 billion yen. So there's a 600 billion yen shift just in their operating activities, and in terms of what it's costing them to do what they're doing. So
that will impact production for Sony, right?
Well, that's the other thing. When you increase your production, you're increasing your costs. So while they're trying to crank up production out of the factories that are making the PlayStation, their costs are increasing. As I think Deezy said, TSMC chips are costing more because of the scarcity of the materials to make them and the cost of the raw inputs to make them, the copper, silicon, all the rest of that stuff. So those things are going up just by default. So the cost of making the chips and then getting the chips and moving around and all that sort of stuff. I've seen instances where there's been over 200% increase in raw material prices, which means that it means that they've tripled. The cost of some of these inputs have tripled. Like to make the heat sink, they went to a different design in the PlayStation 5 to try and make the heat sink smaller to save some money. That saving's already been eroded just by the change in the price of copper, and then the foreign exchange rate change between the yen and the Chinese yuan to make it. Like the impact of the US dollar strengthening affects all other currencies because the US dollar is what they base as the floating currency mark, because it's just however it's managed to do it. It's just the currency that everything gets pegged against. Mm-hmm. But when you convert like the yen against the Chinese yuan, or the yen against the Australian dollar, or yen against the Canadian dollar, whatever, they've all got a direct comparison, but they all use the US dollar as their anchor point to do the floating direct comparisons. So the yen has deteriorated against the Chinese yuan by over 33% since the PS5 launched. So straight away, what does that mean? Straight away, without any other inputs, it now costs them 33% more to make anything straight away. So any kind of 10, 15, 20% savings are eaten. They're gone. They're done. Forget about them. Now factor in the price rises on the raw inputs, 200, 300% in some instances. So copper and iron and silicon and all that, and then add labour cost on top of that. And then there's the issues with all the shutdowns and the lockdowns and all that sort of stuff with getting access to production, and that production gets cheaper if you can make more of it in the same amount of time, because your labour costs and your running costs, your material costs will go up, will usually fluctuate a bit. But at the moment, they're not having a downside fluctuation. And again, because of the impact of inflation on the exchange rates, anyone who's outside of the US is facing higher and higher and higher costs of production. The only saving grace here for Sony is the flip side to that is when they make all their sales in US dollars and then convert them back to yen, the stronger the dollar gets, the better it is on their revenue side. So, for example, if you look at what the foreign exchange impact has been to their revenue in the last quarterly financials, the foreign exchange was responsible for $448 million in revenue, like an increase to their revenue of $448 million. The same period previous year, you're only looking at about $210 million. So they don't touch the US market, because if they affected a price increase in the US because of how things are moving, for the impact it would have to their mind share, their market share, and all the rest of it, $15, $20 increase in the US, yes, it's a scarce product, and yeah, it's difficult to get your hands on one at the moment. It might wane a fair bit, but they don't need to do it there, because as this dollar strengthens, they're just making money for nothing. There's money for it's literally, they don't have to do anything other than sit back and watch the world turn, and they'll make more money next month than they did last month because of the foreign exchange.
Wow.
But where it's impacting them is the cost side. That's not in US dollars. And where it's impacting them is on the sales side in all the other regions. As the dollar strengthens, it weakens against everything else.
Yeah,
it's
everything else is getting
impacted everywhere else. So for them to make one in China, they'd make the PS5s in China and then sell them in America. They ship them from China to America. That has a cost. But if they're doing all that shipping based out of the US accounts, the impact is negative, because the US dollar buys more Chinese yuan than the yen does.
Mm-hmm.
So they ship all that stuff into America, and the local costs over there are reduced. But then when they ship it from China to Australia, those costs are ever increasing. So, and that's what I say, in Australia, that's a $50 increase. It works out to be, I think it's like a $22 or $24 increase if you convert that back to American. But then,
makes sense, bro.
they've been eating it, trying to get them down here. When they first shipped them down, they flew them down air freight because they couldn't get sea freight. And that was, you want to air freight a 40-foot container. If you want to air freight 20 tons of anything to Australia, you're talking tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars. Whereas if you sea freight it from China in 2020, before the pandemic hit, you could get a 40-foot shipping container with about 30 tons worth of gear in it, freighted from China to Australia on a ship for about $500 for the container, and that's after it's cleared customs. These days, you're looking at $7,500 before it even gets off the ship, and then the ships will sit in the harbour in China, or they'll sit in the harbour in Australia at about $200,000 a week, waiting fees. So the longer they sit, the more it costs. Someone's paying for that, and at some point, as all these little bits and pieces of cost increase just trickle down and trickle down and trickle down, someone's paying for it, and it'll always be the end user that cops it eventually.
And this is what's the devil's in the detail, and this is what you're kind of clearly showing. I mean, Microsoft are very much pushing for a digital medium, such as cloud gaming. They're trying to step away from the physical side of things, eliminating all the logistical costs that come with that. Sony,
there's a challenge there, though. Is it that sorry, just before you continue, there's a challenge on that point, though, because to go to digital, you need cloud banks, data banks, server rooms, XYZ, plus all the manpower to run them, and they chew a huge amount of energy, right? Whereas, and this is where they really diverge on being able to be compared. The cost of manufacturing and shipping consoles is not as high as doing digital games for those providers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you see that now, because one of PlayStation's big pushes at the moment is cloud gaming. And you talk to Zubitech, talk to Deezy, talk to anybody. What they're trying to achieve with their cloud gaming structure in conjunction with AWS is going to melt people's faces. Mm-hmm. The problem at the moment is they can't pursue that goal if their cash flow is being impacted, to the extent that it is. So at the moment, they basically came down to choices of a few options. Do we put our mid-range plan on hold until the market improves, which could be 12, 18, 24 months? Do we increase the cost of games? Do we increase to the consumer, or do we increase the cost of the console to the consumer? Or do we put a heap of other stuff on hold? Do we stop our acquisitions plan? Do we slow down on our other investment in expansion of our current studios and all third-party arrangements and all that sort of stuff? It all comes into the conversation, and I wasn't involved in these conversations, but clearly from the outcome that's occurred, they've said games can't be touched, mid-range plan can't be touched, expansion plans for our studios can't be touched, and our acquisitions can't be touched. Cloud gaming is not to be touched. We must pursue that, and we must pursue this, and we must pursue that. So it's basically come down to, all right, do we cause our indie developers to have to sell at a higher price to backfill our pockets, or do we increase the price of the console in the markets where we're getting smashed in terms of cost to get them to market? And they've come up with this, Canada and Australia and Japan and parts of Europe and all the rest of it are just going to have to bite it. They've done it in markets where it's not going to have a massive impact to their sales numbers because they just can't get enough into that region anyway. But so then it comes down to a question of, would it be fair for, I don't mean this lightly, but when you have these conversations at these high levels, this is the stuff you talk about. You go, well, is it fair to say that Australia and Canada and Europe and everyone else doesn't cop a price rise, but we have to have other things missed out? Or do we infect a price rise there fully, or do we subsidise it by price rise globally, and America just backfills, subsidises part of that? What's the impact going to be? How's it going to look? How's it going to be taken? They've had these conversations, and it's not like they had this conversation last week. They would have been talking about doing this since the start of the year. So when they've done, you notice they did the Horizon bundles, was a big thing that's happened in the last few months. They're basically giving that game away in all these other markets to try and cover that price difference. So it's
crazy, man. You've really brought a lot of perspective. You've brought a lot of perspective to the table. It must drive you up the fucking wall, as you say, when you see a lot of greedy Sony, so greedy, victimizing families who can't put food on the table but want PS5s, but that 30 quid destroys it. It's
what family on the breadline is buying console or games? Really, we have to look at how silly that argument actually is.
It really is.
If you're a family on the breadline, you're not buying mobile phones and consoles and PCs. You know what I mean? The last thing you're going to be worried about or thinking about is a console getting more money added to it, or a price of a game. You know what I mean? It's just not important to that type of family. It's a silly argument to make.
Well, I wanted to chime in on this because David is exactly right. Okay, with the shipping containers and stuff like that. Last year, I think it was around October. It might have been September when people, especially in, I guess it was the United States and that. I'm not too sure how it was in Europe and that. So I'm just speaking for the U.S. people. But there was people were starting to get nervous because they weren't able to get the products that they wanted. And there was a news story that they went to Los Angeles, and if you actually stand at the beach of Los Angeles, you'll actually see, at least last year, shipping ships out there. And they've been out there for months upon months upon months. So when David sat there and said, yes, you're paying for this shipping container and everything else, but then they went to people that businesses that were looking for this material, and they're like, we went from, it was like $500 for a shipping container to $5,000 because it's sitting out there, and we still have to keep paying a rental fee for this, and we don't know when we're going to get our product. And Christmas is is our big time where, that really covers a lot of what we do during the year because we get so much business. So, and that was just not only the shipping containers, but they didn't have the truck drivers to take those shipping containers. There was thousands upon thousands. The workers didn't want to go back to work. They wanted to be stayed laid off, things like that. So, yes, he's exactly right with this. And here's one other thing. I want to ask everybody on here: is Sony, and at least the two that I've bought, they're bundles, $750. They keep selling out of them. So by whatever it is, a $30 or a $50 increase in that stuff, they're selling these consoles for $250 more. Now, I understand you're getting a game, an extra controller, whatever it is, but you're making that money. Why are people complaining? They're still selling out. I don't understand that.
No, I agree. Folky, before Doomsayer, you were saying something else, and it, but didn't finish. Do you recall what that was? Nope. Okay. I think Faulkner's off the mic. No, absolutely, guys. I don't know about you, but that's just like brought a whole shitload of perspective to the situation. Yeah. From shipping to from shipping to fucking I don't know what else. From the sorry, I've just got a message off Deezy. He's I don't know if he's on the mic right now, but he's he's been I don't know whether to say it online. I don't want to embarrass the guy. He's locked himself out. Fuck. I hope he's all right. That's going to be a freaking nightmare to get back in. So he's not. He's probably. I don't know if Deezy's going to be around for the remainder of the show because he's busy getting that sorted. There is nothing more frustrating. I feel for him. Fuck. No, but guys, I hope that's brought a lot of perspective. What Folky's explained, it's kind of opened my eyes to the fact that, with Microsoft primarily based in US, and they don't really have that much business in the everywhere else, much elsewhere. They're not really in the same trouble, especially with the US dollar only getting stronger and stronger and stronger. On top of, and I think all of what Faulkner's explained, and Doomsayer as well, about the shipping and everything else, as well as the price of the dollar making the price of everything else decrease. I think on top of that, when you also consider the fact that the PS5 is in such high demand, production numbers, it's a multiplicative effect. If the price of production increases, but the demand of production units per unit is increased as well, you're making more at a greater cost. And there's only so many you can make before that relatively small but noticeable additional cost builds into a monster cost that needs to be made. And this is where I've always had my opinion, and call me old-fashioned, but for me, gaming being my hobby as a consumer, as a customer, custom is a mutual business. It's a mutual agreement. It's a mutual trade. And you've got to respect the customer, sure, but the customer also has to respect the business. And it can't go only one way. You can't demand just say free shit for your own convenience. You have to recognize, if I still want this product, then this product still needs to exist, and I have to have invested interest in this product for it to exist. And if for this product to keep existing, I need to pay a little bit more because production and costs of that product has gone up, but it's worth it to me, and it's worth it to me to pay that little bit more, then I will. Not flipping do it anyway, but then bitch and moan about it on Twitter about how evil and scummy and greedy that business is that you're buying from, you know? That's just kind of how I've always felt about it. Don't know if I'm making any sense there. OT, you had something to say?
Yeah. I think David really broke it down very well. There's so many things he said that I didn't even realize, especially with the numbers. I mean, those numbers are great, but it's all falling back to this thing of if you even look on Twitter, a lot of the people complaining are Americans who also don't realize the privileged position they have because of their currency. For instance, when the PlayStation was 600, selling for $500, I bought it for 850 here in Kenya because of my currency is so weak compared to the dollar. So when you look at what Japan is going through, I think David has explained that if people put themselves in the shoes of what the Japanese companies are going through, they'll begin to understand that this thing is more serious than they thought. And today I even had I put a link that Germany, because this is a rare situation where it's not only places like Africa that are experiencing mad inflation, but we are getting Asia. In fact, it's global. But Germany, literally this December, they are going to have to choose between sending gas for homes to heat their homes or sending gas to the factories so that they can have jobs to go to. That is how bad this situation is. And what I see from Twitter is people do not seem to comprehend or understand just how bad a situation we are in terms of the global economy. And we are headed towards the worst part of it. We are not yet in the worst part. But the thing is, so many places have experienced such inflation from components, from each of the components they're using, because these consoles use so many components. So when you're having prices triple, and I'm hearing guys say, oh man, PlayStation were already making a profit. What do you think the profit was? The profit was minimal when it comes to hardware, because PlayStation every end of year still say hardware costs reduce a lot of their profits. So I just feel like Twitter has a lot of people who are reacting emotionally, but they have not put themselves in the shoes of Sony. And I think in life, we just need to have that culture of, before you criticize someone, just try and understand, what are you going through? And what I've seen on Twitter is people don't even want to know what the Japanese companies are going through, what the European companies are going through. They just want to know what is best for me, which is unfortunate.
It's ironic, yeah, that you're actually, shout out to Fornitron in the chat. He said OT is spot on. If you own a gaming console, you're privileged no matter what. Which one you have, you're privileged.
Jump in.
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, my mic stopped working. I didn't realise it had. So to recap, the thing I wanted to say earlier, was that this argument that they shouldn't be doing it because families are struggling and on the breadline, or so cut that shit out. That is being extremely disrespectful for those that are doing it tough and have done it tough. And those people have been doing it tough for a long time. It's not a new thing. It's not a new concept. A lot of the reference to those that, doing it tough, can't pay their bills, soaring energy prices, soaring food prices, just stop bringing that into the conversation.
I agree.
It is extremely disrespectful that anyone and everyone who is on or about that poverty line, or that are doing it tough and having to penny pinch and watch everything. They're the ones that are going to pay for this recession to be fixed. Stop it. Just fucking stop it, all right?
I fucking love it. Can we timestamp this exact point and someone screen record that and then tag Broomstick, right? Fucking tag Broomstick and tell him.
Don't worry,
because Falky just dropped the fucking mic, bro. That was amazing. That's spot on.
A question, David. Question for a second, and anybody can actually answer this. The financials that just came out, is Sony still making that record profit?
No, Sony hasn't made record profits for ages. Even last financial year was a record revenue, but it wasn't record profit. And they keep conflating the two. This is what drives me up the fucking wall. This is what drives me up the fucking wall.
There you go, buddy. You know what you need to know.
Go on, Folky. Go on, Folky.
Yeah, go ahead, David.
Revenue is not profit. And everyone goes, oh, but they're the biggest company. Like, it doesn't matter. Nintendo has a better profit margin than Sony, than PlayStation. Nintendo's gaming division has a much better profit margin than Sony's gaming division, right? Why is that? Because they don't have even close to the same amount of revenue. But have you ever seen Nintendo products get cheaper? Have you ever seen them do a price decrease? No. They increase their profitability by decreasing their costs. They keep everything at high price everywhere, and nearly 50%, it's over nearly 45% of Nintendo's sales are in America. So as I said before, as the dollar's increasing and strengthening in America, Nintendo's making bank without even having to pull their finger out of their ass and do anything. But their costs are always decreasing because they're using old tech. Why was the PS4 so fucking cheap to make? Because they used old tech. They didn't use bleeding edge tech. Consumers that consume consoles and gaming in general complain and complain and complain constantly. We want better tech. We want better tech. We want the best of everything. Well, you know what? Old school hard drives are easy to make because you can make them with steel. SSDs are complex to make. They cost a bundle to make them. Why do you think the fucking third-party ones that you can put in a PS5 are so fucking expensive? They cost money to make. They're not coming down in price in a hurry, and they're still quite expensive even when they do have a price drop. You look at what the RTX 4000 series are going to cost. You check out what the next iPhone is going to cost. Look at what the Apple Mac M1s cost. It is expensive shit because they demand bleeding-edge tech. Stop fucking complaining when you got to pay for what you asked for.
Hey, David, let me ask you this real quick. Those people that are sitting there and they're talking about record profits for Sony that they don't know, they're complaining about this $30 to $50. How many of those people do you think have an iPhone and probably go out every 2 years and get a brand new iPhone and don't care about paying that or $200? I'll bet you 90% of them do. But
I bet you the 90% of them that do, they don't pay for the phone outright. They get it on a plan with their carrier, and then when they do the changeover, they're carrying debt from the last phone and the phone before that and the phone before that and the phone before that.
Yep.
So yeah, they've probably indebted themselves to get something where, and it's the next iPhone in Australia is probably going to be somewhere around $1,800 to $2,000. The last one was $1,200 to $1,400 brand new, depending on which one you got. And people look at it and go, "Fuck, that's expensive, but I've got to have it." There's nothing wrong with the one you had last time. It's only 12 months old, but they've got to have the new one.
I just want to stress, bro, what you said earlier, like, really hit home. Like, people who have been able to enjoy gaming platforms and are well off enough to have a relatively comfortable lifestyle in order to enjoy gaming as a medium and as a hobby, are suddenly classing them, calling themselves or being referred to as struggling in a world where people have always struggled. It's kind of like it's almost like elevating themselves as more entitled than people who have always struggled and always been relatively poor, but worked within their budget. And it goes back to, again, when I said I wouldn't class myself as poor. I'm certainly not well off. I comfortably get by if I'm careful, and I'm not on a big wage at all. Neither's my wife, but we get by and we save and we have a little enough in the pot to treat ourselves. And I have to be more careful and responsible with the games that I buy now, and I have to save and choose the games that I buy wisely. But I'm not struggling, and if I fall on relatively hard times, the last thing on my mind will be Sony up the price of their games console. And it's just like, it's about priorities, you know. It's about priorities, and it is disrespectful. It's very disrespectful, and I think what you said earlier, Falky, was just so kind of. It deserves a fucking round of applause, man. Honestly.
I appreciate the kind words, but it's genuine. I don't think I accept that it's how you're feeling about it. I don't want to be applauded for that because that's common fucking sense.
Yeah, it is.
So,
it is, but it needed to be said, and it needed to be said well, and it was here. Can we all just agree tonight's show is fucking lit? Like, everyone in the chat is loving it, and the conversation that's flowing is phenomenal. Go on, Doom. Sorry, brother.
No, I just wanted to sit there and say this is just like you sat there and said, Woolley, and I'm going to say everybody on this panel, we afford what we can afford. We're doing all right for each other and that stuff, or for ourselves and that. We're not poor or anything. We can afford, food on the table or whatever. But I put money away every week to buy my games at the end of the year for Black Friday because you get so good deals and that stuff, whether it's through, buying them digital or getting them from the store and that. Just save up your money. If you have patience and everything, believe me, you're going to find a lot of good stuff by the end of the year. It'll get you through the year, for a backlog and that. That's the way that I look at it.
Sorry.
Just save up your...
I'll shut up and let everyone else talk after this. But the other point that I wanted to make was this I think Odie was saying about, the inflation costs and the price pieces and all that. I can't illustrate it without going through massive amount of spreadsheets and whiteboard drawings and all that sort of stuff to try and get people to understand just how much of an impact this stuff has in such a short amount of time. But the forecast, it's not where we're at right now. It's the forecast of where they think it's going to end, where it's going to bottom out. And if you look at some of the stuff in their financials and you look at some of the other analytics that global bits and pieces are talking about, we could be only halfway there. And if they wait 12 months to then do a price increase then, when they've already eaten a couple of $1 billion in losses over the next two periods and gone through the Christmas period making operating losses, not operating profits, their revenue stream could be record revenue streams, but they're still not making any money. And that puts a big hold on their future plans, and they miss 6 to 9 months out of their mid-range plan. The impact that the current inflationary points could have, if they did a price rise in February, when they've got some massive games coming out, and they do a price rise then, and the supply issue's been fixed, that's when they could do some irreparable damage to their path forward, having already eaten a couple of $1 billion extra in losses that they didn't really need to. So it comes back all to timing, but if you look at the forecast, like just here in Australia alone, current cash interest rate is, I think it's like just over 1.5%. They'll be at 3.75% by the end of the year. So we're about a third of the way through eating it here in Australia, so to speak. And that has a massive impact on everything. Canada's similar. Japan's in a slightly better but worse situation. Their inflation isn't as high, but their economy's not moving anywhere. US, UK, Europe, they're all got high inflation, and they've all got these methods to fix it. What a lot of people miss is this inflation and period and this global pressure, it's a supply side issue, not a demand side issue. And all the levers they're currently pulling on at the moment are to fix demand side issues of inflation. They don't have the same impact as the supply side does. It's like you put the brakes on in a car and it's got ABS, and you jam your foot on the brakes and the ABS kicks in and it keeps you rolling along. What they need to do is yank the handbrake on, and no one's got a handbrake they can pull on hard enough to fix this thing in a quick period of time. So, and it's very different to what happened in 2008. What's going to happen in the next 12 months is extremely different to what happened in 2008. But a lot of us are still going to feel it the same way. Cost of everything is going to go up, particularly energy this time is going to go through the roof.
It's already, I'm paying 1,200 quid a year more in electricity bills this year alone.
Because the cost of everything's going to go up. But everybody who's got their hands on the pulse that's making coin out of this, so to speak, they're not in a hurry to increase supply. And none of the major governments in the world are in a hurry to factor in an increase in supply. Because when you increase the supply or oversupply to try and pull that part of the curve back, it brings prices back really quickly. But it doesn't do anything to help the cost side. It only increases costs to the organisations. So that's why none of them want to do it. Which law or which country has laws that will allow over any corporate entity or company to almost double their costs in an attempt to reduce their revenue? They're not legally allowed to do it. And that's part of the problem we're looking at. That's why you never see a housing market oversupplied. It's why you never see an energy market oversupplied. Anytime you try to oversupply to exceed demand for the sake of price reduction, no one wants to do that. And unless they're forced to by a government, they won't do it. So just keep that in. That's the other thing I wanted to point out there, is keep that in mind, that whatever the problems they're trying to solve, they are not going to do it by a supply side issue correction. It's all going to be demand side, and it's going to hurt like hell.
I'll tell you what, a fucking podcast for grown-ups. I love it. This has been, honestly, this is one of them episodes that I'm gonna go back and listen through again and again, so to learn and take notes, because this is really important stuff for like to just set the record straight and to get a clear understanding of what's really happening. And this, Volky, is why you, as well as the rest of the panel, but for this particular reason, you're invaluable, is for your knowledge and intel on the situation, because of what you do as a professional business analyst. So thank you very much, man, for the information.
Thanks. Thanks for letting me ramble on too, by the way. I know I do it. I get on a rant and
we all ramble at times. I ramble, Deezy rambles. I mean, Retro's a man of relatively few words.
David, what you said needed to be said. It was fantastic. To be honest, I was listening very keenly, because you've just dropped so many aspects to this that I hadn't even considered. And truly, to be honest, you guys, I'm going to push this episode, because people need to know truth that David has said. There's too much emotion online with no real substance. Like, somebody told me that Sony is still making a profit after they've increased the prices, and I said, where do you get that information from? There's so much feelings and no facts. So I'm so glad that this podcast is genuinely giving people facts, figures, logic, not just emotion when it comes to this issue.
Yeah.
But the problem is those people, they don't want to know the truth, and they'll
right.
But what I will say, sorry, go on, Doom. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
I was just gonna say what I will say is every single person in this chat has been like literally saying thank you so much for this episode. Like, David, thank you for informing us, and like people are really appreciating what's being said here in the chat. I don't know if you can see the chat yourself, David, but I
can't at the moment.
But no, everything you're saying, everything that you're saying is really hitting, and people are appreciating it. Newtonian says Woolley put bookmarks in the video. I will timestamp this ASAP as soon as it's done. As soon as we finish the show, I'll definitely be putting doing timestamps and all that stuff, all that good stuff. I don't know if there's more that you want to discuss on this particular subject. I mean, I'm fully all for it. If there's anything that you want to hammer down to make absolutely so clear, so that nothing can get misconstrued or in case the penny hasn't dropped, by all means, before we move on.
Wait there, nobody shouted at David saying he's a pony and he's capping.
Yeah.
He is.
We're missing part of the argument here, man. I'll do it though. David, stop capping, you pony. It's all damage control. Nothing makes sense. It's all damage control. I'm not listening to what you're saying.
That's what they'll be saying.
I was in a Spaces like I can't remember whose it was. I think it might have been say Chris Righteous. He was in one of his spaces earlier this week, and Brap was in there. Brap actually said, "Get in here, you need to hear this." And HD Gamer and a few others were in there as well, listening away. And I think Xbox Uni got in there and got his chest puffed out and started carrying on and all the rest of it. And anytime someone tried to explain it rationally, the reasoning for it, he'd say, "Oh, you're just capping for it, or you're just defending it." I'm like, there's a difference between explaining why something happened and then defending why it happened. And a lot of people just miss that. I'm not defending what they've done. I understand why they've done it. And if I was in their shoes, I'd have done it too, because I'd have had no choice. I'm legally bound to run the thing at a profit. And the other thing to consider as well is if I'm not making a profit or a return on investment to the shareholders take their money and go somewhere else. And then I've got no money to do anything and it just gets worse. Does it mean that I like it? Fuck no. I don't like it at all. But again, Sony's a corporate entity. They're selling to consumers. And what's the main thing is, as I've said before, they will increase prices and increase prices and increase prices to protect their profitability or whatever they've got in their plans, to the point where through gritted teeth, the consumer will go, yeah, right, I don't like it, but I'll still pay it. When they stop paying for it, that's when their price will decrease. So until there's an oversupply of consoles into the market, this is nothing.
Yeah.
It's not going to put a dent in their sales at all.
Consumers should be...
Don't like it.
Yeah, running a business is a big boy venture, and consumers should be big boys as well and recognize that a product you want, it wasn't you that made it, you just want it, and and there has to be a level of I don't know whether the word's relativity there, having a perspective relative to the world around you that appreciates and respects the fact that you wanting something doesn't manifest that thing into existence. It takes a lot of money, a lot of work and investment on someone else to make it if you're not going to do it yourself. And Sony are doing that.
I can give you a quick analogy example. It's got nothing to do with consoles, but it's got to do with consumers buying through gritted teeth, right? We had a heap of flooding here in Australia, particularly up in Queensland and northern New South Wales, where a lot of the vegetable crops are grown. And it wiped out a segment of the lettuce crops, right? And this isn't like local. This is lettuce that goes across the country, supplies massive amounts there, right? That happened back at the end of May, early June. And it takes lettuce about 6 to 8 weeks to get a crop planted, grown, and off the market. So, because this crop got wiped out, and this will happen, the drought, you think the droughts in Europe are bad, you wait until you see your food prices when the crops don't get harvested. It's going to hit hard. We cop it here all the time, but it's more of a local thing. We didn't have any lettuce. What an iceberg lettuce was $2.50 at the supermarket was suddenly $15. So people, because of the scarcity of it, the supermarkets took advantage of it because they weren't backfilling. There was no supply increase. It was just a scarcity of demand, so they cranked the price up and make money off it. But what that also had an effect on was fast food chains that have lettuce on their food, or any restaurants that have lettuce in their menus. And Melbourne's full of a certain type of people who just love to eat salad all the time, right? So they were having massive price increases across the board. So they didn't stop buying it. They just stopped buying something else to fund that, because that was what they wanted. Same thing will happen here. KFC and McDonald's substituted the issue by putting cabbage on the burger instead of lettuce. And people through gritted teeth went, oh, it sucks, but I still want my KFC burgers, or I still want my Big Mac, so I'll buy it. So either if they want it, they'll buy it, and they'll take a shitty substitute to get it, or they'll pay the premium to get it. So and that's just like a local analogy that the next round of lettuce crops have been done. Everything's come back to a normal price point. Happy days, because the supply's there and they can't keep doing the price side. But they'll buy it through gritted teeth. There'll be heaps of people in Canada and Australia and Japan. You see some of the comments coming out of Japan. Everybody's nervous about the price increase. No one's going to buy one. They're all going to switch to to PC gaming. Like, why? What's the drive? You think it's too expensive to buy a PlayStation 5, yet you're happy to fork out 4 times as much on a gaming PC? Where's the logic in that? That's just
or an Xbox Series X, which is still more expensive than a PS5 digital, by 70 quid.
Yeah,
but
to say that the PS5s are more expensive, so everyone's going to buy an Xbox. Well, people that want a PlayStation want it for a particular reason, and at the moment, Xbox doesn't offer that comparison. And to keep hammering home the value proposition, like buy a Series S and you get Game Pass for $1, and it's the best value in gaming. It might be the case, but what are you actually getting? If that's what you want, great, go for it, buy it. That's your personal consumer. But if you're saying that buying a Series X is a direct substitute for a PlayStation 5, that's debatable at best. And you're saying, that might hold true if you're only playing Madden or Call of Duty or a multi-platform title. But people don't buy PlayStations for the multi-plat title. They buy PlayStations for the PlayStation stuff. It's like saying, I don't want to buy a Ferrari, so I'll just go and buy a Toyota.
I don't even get why the two prices have to be similar, just because they're both consoles. I've never understood this. You know what I mean? Whether a Sony console is more expensive or cheaper than their competitor, 9 times out of 10 that they try, they end up winning or coming really close to that gen. And that's because of the games. It has to be, because it's the only thing that's been consistent over the last 5 gens. Do you know what I mean?
It's to do with launch. So when you've got, like, PS4 to PS5 is probably the best example I can give. It's not the only one, it's the best one. You want to transition people off one to the next as fast as you can, but you want to make sure you got a low starting price point to do it. When you're saying the next gen, and they sort of have their hand forced a little bit by the competition, and it's a fair point. When you don't know what it looks like, and you've got one company standing there saying this thing eats monsters for breakfast, and it's 12 teraflops, and it's this, and all the buzzwords, right? And people that aren't, I shouldn't say people that aren't educated on it, but people that don't really care, they just get hyped up about the next step. If you've got something that doesn't beat it on paper, you've got to give them a changeover point to ensure they don't go the other side. But like, you look at the retention points, people that have got a PS4 aren't necessarily jumping ship singularly to an Xbox. They'll have both consoles. So it's more a matter of the ones that aren't super hardcore devoted to gaming. More that, I suppose, the casual side, not even the casual games. So sort of between hardcore casual and the devoted gamer. It's that segment there, which is about 40% of the console market. They want to make sure that there's a lower, that the changeover price point isn't restrictive. At the same time, though, where they're at right now, over 20 million consoles sold, fuck it, they don't care at this point. They're happy to just power on, because there's not going to be, like, for the Xbox to claw back at this point on the console segment. Something fucking serious is going to have to swap. And Game Pass isn't going to sell consoles. It's not even close. If you want to get the best benefit out of Game Pass, you're better off to have a PC. So,
yeah,
but
facts.
Again, that's a totally different conversation. But there's people say, Xbox is now an even better value proposition. Like, fuck off. It might be a lower price point of entry, but where's the value at the back end of that? The quality difference is night and day, and people buy PlayStations for that PlayStation specific content.
Yeah, if people were buying consoles because based on which one is cheapest, everyone would own a Series S, but they're sitting on shelves.
No one would have a Switch if it was to do with price. Exactly. No one would have a Switch. Exactly. And that thing is, they can't haul it in. What's 5 years into it? And the thing's still doing 350,000, 400,000 units a week. And the cadence of games that comes out on the Switch is not even close to what you would expect for paying that kind of money. Well, but they keep selling every week. Mario Kart's in there. Super Mario game is in there. Smash Brothers is in there. These things are constantly selling like hotcakes in markets where they've been selling at that level for years. So it is a value proposition about what? It's clearly not about the price of entry. It's about the quality of what you're experiencing. I can tell you firsthand that anything to do with a Nintendo, with their top end games, the people that want them will buy it. They could increase the price of a Switch by $100 tomorrow. It won't hurt their sales numbers at all. Mm-hmm. People want it.
Big facts. Let's just divert now to another talking point. Kind of, it's on the similar playing field to this, but let's actually directly address this. So it was revealed through CNBC that Ampere Analyst or Analysis, professional analysis, estimates that Sony has sold 21 million PS5s worldwide. In fact, I'll get the screen up so you guys can see. Let me full screen capture. Try this new screen out. Look at this bad boy. Hope you like it. A new Ampere analysis estimates that Sony has sold 21 million PS5s worldwide compared to Microsoft's Xbox Series consoles combined total of 13.8 million. Harding Rolls said that he does not expect this to put off gamers wanting to buy a PS5 given demands are high regarding the price increase. While we believe there will be disappointment for some customers that have been trying to buy a PS5 without success, or that were saving to buy the console just in one time for the price to increase, the high pent-up demand for Sony's device means that this price increase of around 10% across most markets will have minimal impact on sales of the console. We expect Sony sales forecasts for the PS5 to remain unchanged. But it's a particular worthy of note thing that Ampere analysis kind of contradicts the trending, should I say, the trending guesstimates of what they called now? I've just forgotten. CV charts. Can't even remember the name. I can't even remember the name.
Chart.
Pardon?
VG charts.
VG charts, that's the one. VG charts estimated, I think Xbox Series consoles to be around 18 million or something like that. But they've in the past had to apologize for overestimating. But this analysis estimates 13.8. Now I have a theory. I mentioned it earlier on as to why he's saying 13.8 million, and it's maybe he's going based on actual sales, not perceived or not conflating sales with shipments, unless he literally means 13.8 shipments. But I just wanted to.
Did he specify if it was Series S or Series X? Because if it's Series S,
it's Series consoles, not Series S or X, but the combined total.
Interesting.
Yeah, combined total. And if it was Series S anyway, which would be the only, it wouldn't be Series X, not that number. But even if it was only Series S he was talking about and not the combined total of both, then you're already looking at a ratio of maybe at most kind of like, I don't know, maybe a third of the ship or 7 out of 10 series consoles or Series S. I don't know, like, because they seem to be the far more popular on the shelves machines. So if you look at that ratio, then you're only looking at around, well, not much really. You're looking at probably 18 million in total if it wasn't a combination. But that does literally say series consoles, not one or the other.
I think it's ship versus sales. I think your dude's numbers are probably closer to what's actually been sold through the consumer. And I think VG charts have been using the ship numbers and kind of just letting people guess whether it's shipped or sold. Do you know what I mean? They've not been very clear about it.
You got to be careful when, and I agree with you. You got to be careful when you're talking about shipped versus sold, because when PlayStation or Xbox or Nintendo, when they sell it to the retailer, that's when they count them as sales, units sold or units shipped, right? When the retailer, and this is where NPD and VG charts and all the rest of them, when they're talking about sales, they're collecting the data from the retail sale end. So Xbox could be saying, we did 18, this is what it could be. They say, we did 18 million, whatever it is, as an example. Oh, it's no, Sony. So I'll use Sony as an example because it can actually verify those numbers. They say, we sold 21 million PS5s. Or we've shipped 21 million PS5s. So that's great. They've recorded 21 million units in their revenue sitting in their books. Happy days. Of those 21 million, when they've recorded the sale to GameStop or whoever it is that's retailing them, the retailers then pay the cost of acquiring them, and then they on-sell them to the consumer. Now, VG charts and NPD and all that are capturing what the sales points are at the consumer side when they're sold out of the retailers. There's going to be a big difference if the retailers have got stock sitting in warehouses because it's in transit. And I know the guy at VG Charts has said a few times, we have to readjust because there's been sales that are quoted by Xbox or PlayStation, whoever it is. They've said this, but our data said that. There's that gap in the middle where they're sitting in a warehouse somewhere. Or they might be sitting on a ship in the middle of the ocean that's parked in a bay somewhere because they can't get the shit off the ship and it hasn't been sold out to the consumer yet. So there's a timing difference there. So, and not to say that they're right or wrong, usually they're within a level of tolerance, a couple of percent here or there. But I mean, it's not like we're making massive investment decisions off that they were wrong by 200. They had to adjust by 200,000 over the last 12 months because of whatever reason. We're not talking about huge variances. So use it as an indicator, but don't use it as an absolute. But don't forget that it depends on who you're talking about and what point they're taking the sale. Because Sony's increased the price of what their recommended retail price is. Sony's not necessarily increased the price by $50 in Australia for when they're selling it to EB Games or JB Hi-Fi. Sony might have only increased it by $20 sell-through price, and then those guys have got to wear the fucking cost of actually getting it down here and selling it to the consumer. So there's a lot of dynamics there. But, you know, if it sold to consumer, is it sold to retailer? Is it shipped to retailer?
That is the big question.
All very different.
Honestly,
and the only way you'll know.
Go on.
The only way you'll know is by looking at the reports and when they actually say number of consoles shipped or number of consoles sold. But then that doesn't mean, again, PlayStation said 21.7 million according to this report. PlayStation has moved 21.7 million. But are the 21.7 million in the hands of the players? No one knows.
It's a good point.
To piggyback off of what, or I guess to add an anecdote to what David was saying, in the PlayStation 3 era, Sony used to count down to a margin error of 1.3% to quantify shipment sell through. They had sell through and they had sell in. Sell in was what they used to quantify their shipments, and sell through was what they used to quantify their sold to customers. So during the PS3 era, all the way through up until the PlayStation to about the early start of the PS4 era, they used on their earnings and whatnot every quarter when they had their milestones, they used to say, we had maybe sold through we maybe sold in 3 million this quarter with an estimated sell through to customers of 2.8 million or so. And whatnot. And then at the end of every year, fiscal year, they would say cumulatively, we've sold we've sold through to customers so and so amount. So 15 million PlayStation 4s or PlayStation 3s were sold through this fiscal quarter to customers with an estimated or not even say estimated, with a thing of 18 or 16.1 million to retail. And they would say this is an estimate within a 1.3 to 1.6% margin of error. So they eventually switched over to just counting sales, counting their sell-in as sold to customers because of how high PlayStation 4 demand was. They basically just brought all that into one easily trackable manner versus tracking every single IP or initial connection of PlayStation 4s that were connected to the internet via, through the PlayStation Network and whatnot. And it makes more sense for them to do it the way that they do now because demand is high. They can pretty much guarantee that the people who, when they put a PlayStation on a shelf, a PS5 on a shelf, that PS5 is going to get sold because the demand is high. So that margin of error for trying to calculate what the sell-in versus the sell-through is, it becomes redundant and negligible at this point. So
it's kind of funny. It is a little funny though, and I just find it it humors me that you the same can't be said for Xbox consoles. They are sitting on shelves, literally. They're not selling out the moment they hit, and yet they're still classed as sales. And
I think I'd say that Xbox is selling. It's just not selling
very well.
in.
Selling well.
Yeah, it's selling. I think it's selling better than the Xbox One for sure. However, that desire, with everything that's been going forward with going on with their business, they have not been selling to the same, speed and expediency as, like, say, a PlayStation or a Nintendo console. And, it all comes back down to value proposition and less of a price thing, because the Series S is the cheapest entry point into AAA gaming that we have right now. In this generation anyway. We've seen that the sales of an Xbox One and PlayStation 4 have basically started to dry up or have dried up globally. So the cost is not necessarily a thing for people, because if it was, it'd be selling more than the Switch. And the Switch, basically, Nintendo basically released a new model that's more expensive, and that is still a hotly pursued item.
The Steam Deck is £600. It's 600 quid here, and it's I want one so badly. I can't afford one right now because I'm saving for baby. Obviously, and I have to prioritize what I buy, and 600 quid is just unjustifiable for me right now. But I mean, but damn, do I want one? And I do not view that as not worth it. Like, if I had the money, I would get that bad boy immediately.
It's a value proposition, and price isn't the issue for Microsoft in comparison to PlayStation. It is the value proposition, and the value proposition all comes down to that ecosystem's software. The software is not up to par. And when we say software, we're not talking about the third-party stuff. We're talking about the things that define owning a platform, and what the things that define that owning a platform isn't necessarily just the buzzwords and the marketing terms.
Not
It
the
is the
firmware, the
games.
games.
Right. It's the games that show that that distinguishes the Xbox experience from the Nintendo experience, from the PlayStation experience. Those are what quantifies what the value is. And so a Series S, a Series S being cheap, being the cheapest thing, and not having a price rise right now still isn't the catalyst that's going to turn the scales for everything. This year is a drought for Microsoft in terms of quality software releases, right? And there is third-party games that are coming there which people are gonna lap into because they love their Xbox ecosystem, and that's perfectly fine. But people are still wanting a next generation AAA Microsoft or Xbox exclusive to brag about, to talk about, and there isn't any of that this year. So regardless of what these price hikes are and however we may feel about them, from a consumer standpoint, the overall aspect of it is comes down to value. And like David said, the value proposition is not the same for a PlayStation and for any current Xbox.
Exactly.
On a broader scale, it obviously will differ from person to person, but on a broad majority scale, that value proposition that you talk about an Xbox and you bring that up to a PlayStation 5, it just isn't there, and it's basically all in the pudding of why the sales are where they are.
The value proposition for me to own an Xbox Series X, I could see myself getting one when I found out Valheim is coming to Xbox. I have it on PC, I love it, but then I realized, then the Steam Deck came out, or the Steam Deck was out, and I realized, well, hang on. I could play Valheim on my Steam Deck. I could play V Rising on the Steam Deck, and the games that I have on my PC, I could play in my on my couch, on my sofa, on my Steam Deck, and that's kind of like taking the wind out of the Xbox Series X's sales for me, because I would have got a Series X to enjoy Valheim on console and Naraka Blade Point, but now I realize, well, actually, it would make even more sense for me just to pay that little extra more on top of a Series X's price to get a Steam Deck, so I can still enjoy those same games that I wanted a Series X for. And when the games that you want a Series X for are kind of timed exclusives and third party, you kind of know that's an issue, because I wanted a PlayStation 5 for Spider-Man and Demon Souls. It's a whole different kettle of fish. And I think this is where Series X, I can see Xbox getting their shit together in 2023 if the games land, but so far it's a bit of a big if. There's quality control hasn't been consistent, and the output hasn't been consistent. But yeah, I don't want this to go kind of veer off into the whole, Xbox versus PlayStation shit, like every podcast does. Every podcast does. I just wanted to kind of touch on the fact that, well, actually, when you look at this Ampere Analyst's take on sales, it's looking like it's not looking great. 13.8 million. It's good, yeah, but it's not anywhere near as high as we were told from the guesswork of those who Microsoft congratulates often, VG Charts.
Well, like David said, sell through to customers and sell in to
stores,
retail. Are different metrics.
Maybe this insider has the metrics that they won't show.
Yeah, and Microsoft won't reveal those things, and because I think at this point it's just negligent because they still get their money. They still get their money when the retailers buy it from them, right? The retailers get their cut when they sell when they sell the product at the MSRP to the customers. So. And then everything else, the profitability is made not from hardware but from software. So the sell into customers is less of an important thing for Microsoft at this point because they're selling. They're selling far more successfully than they have with the series, not with the Xbox One, but like I said, in terms of what's going on, in terms of like what's more popular and the value proposition, it's still squarely within Sony's thing. And, Microsoft themselves have admitted it in court documents and other things moving,
there's no
regarding
game.
acquisitions. So, yeah.
Yeah, facts. So it's interesting when you actually break it down. If these figures are accurate from this Ampere analyst, then Lurian, shout out to him, sorry I butchered that name, broke it down pretty well. The ratio would be 3 PlayStations sold to every 1 Series X and every 1 Series S, which is shocking. It's crazy because Series S sells roughly... every 7 million Series S is sold, there's 6.5 million Series X is sold. I would have thought there'd be less Series X's and more Series S's in terms of ratio, but looking at hardware sales, it's different.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because Microsoft was able to produce more Series S's, and I think that was the thing they were betting on. They wanted more people to transition into a Series X, and that would kind of force them to move on up to a Series X in one way or another, and that's just kind of how they produced it. Because there was more chip yields for producing the smaller chipsets of the I don't know what they call their chipset is called. I forget. But
yeah. A Series S, don't get me wrong, a Series S, I can see that bad boy snug right next to my PC monitor as like a little emulator, and that's literally all it would be for me. But it's an expensive emulator to have, and why have an emulator next to my PC when I've got a 3070 i7 11700K beastie rig? It just doesn't make sense to me. I would much rather invest my money on something that offers a unique value proposition, such as the Steam Deck, because it's portable, right? It's like Nintendo Switch. It's appealing for that reason. But I just have this dream of playing Valheim and V Rising on my couch in my hands. That would just be so cool. But yeah, moving on lastly to the last, unless anybody else has anything to add to that convo, guys, about this whole sales figures.
Hey, sorry guys, I need to go, but I just wanted to say that, for this episode, I'm really so grateful that I've got to listen to so much. And I just like to ask the guys who are in the chat, please, if you could just promote this episode. I think it's really important that people know the facts and balanced opinions about this. So if you can, please go to Twitter and just share this episode if you can. Thanks so much, guys. I'll catch you guys next time.
Grateful, OT.
Yeah,
Take care, brother. Thank you so much. And
take care, bro.
Take
care.
Like OT,
brother.
Like OT said, please do, guys. That whole segment of Folky breaking it all down. It was really, really kind of like a milestone moment of just information that changes the game. It just changes the whole ball game. And if that kind of hit home for you guys as much as it did me, then definitely share parts that stood out to you on Twitter. tweet the show. Just type in at either me, Woolley Gamer, or OT or Folky for Faulkner. You can find him at Folky87 on Twitter. Tag any one of us on the panel, and let us know. But yeah, that would be amazing.
I don't care. I don't want to hear your bullshit. I'm not interested. I'm just saying.
I love it.
Any word?
Oh, Philip, stop.
I know.
That's not bro. That's not bro.
He's I'm gonna kick him off the panel in a minute. Don't worry. I'm joking.
Do it.
You're doing a Wilhelm. That Wilhelmovsky's freaking kind of energy has possessed you. He's possessed you. What's going on?
I'm being a rebel, man. Fuck it.
I love it.
He's just getting chirpy now. Oti's off the panel.
He's being a pony.
Getting chirpy.
He's being a pony. What's going on? No, but seriously, yeah, fire, absolute fire. So let's touch on this less important but still kind of interesting bit before we close up the show. Gamescom 2022. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, I've literally posted the only things I can remember on this thumbnail, and that was Metal Hellsinger. This whole Dying Light 2 Los Angeles edition, which is basically Dead Island 2, and the highlight for me, Destiny Nightfall. But I've got a list here of things shown, and I'll read them out to you. We've had I don't know if you guys will know any of these games, to be honest. I've been showcasing some of the gameplay of some of them, but The Last Case of Benedict Fox, that's something I'd never heard of before, but that was showcased on the show. We've also got Gotham Knights, obviously. Hogwarts Legacy, we saw some of that. The new trailer looked pretty good, actually. I'm quite liking the look of that game. I don't know if there was anything that stood out to you guys at all. Anything you thought was worth mentioning?
Listen, the Lightfall trailer dropped. The Lightfall trailer was showing up in GD's in that thing, but I tuned into that thing on the off chance because an hour before that was the actual Destiny 2 showcase, which had my full attention. So when I tuned into this thing, I literally sat through, and I was just like, you know what? It really is. I felt like the state of play that had Resident Evil 4 was better than this show. I felt like Summer Games Fest, his Summer Games Fest show was much better than Open Night Live this year. This, I don't know. Like, look, the show was just boring, and this is no offense to the hardworking developers who pour their heart and soul into these things, but the energy of how Jeff delivers these showcases they don't hit the right cadence. There's too much talking. I get it because he's showcasing so many of these things and he's giving these people a voice. But like, honestly, these days, man,
he's very indulgent.
Yeah. These days, and I love the guy too because he gives, he puts his heart out there and he loves the industry and he loves giving, stuff like, Ashbourne was actually going to be revealed at one of his shows before we had to pull out of it because we weren't ready. So and we were gonna unveil it to the world then. But it's the cadence of the shows of his showcases, they just don't do it for me. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm in a similar boat, bro. Like, I find him very indulgent, and I don't think it's intentional, but it's just very much like, my best friend Kojima kind of has a special announcement for you all, and it's something he could have posted. He could have posted that on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like
the way he wastes some of our time, the way he wasted some of our time. Like, I'm like, look, you do, like, Kojima does not need to get on Gamescom and tell everybody that he has a podcast with Spotify. Take that shit to Twitter. Like, it's not that big of a deal. Everybody on their grandma.
It's a pure
got a
promotion, and you don't use a platform like that just purely for a self promotion without. I don't know. Like, you could argue, well, it's a product, it's a podcast that's free for listeners, so don't be so ungrateful. I don't mean to sound disrespectful. I love Kojima. I've got two massive Metal Gear Solid tattoos on my body, but I just don't feel like things that could be announced on Twitter, with a quick video that would go viral in itself, needs to be.
It's just about respecting people's time. The show is already long to begin with. It's like 2 hours, and then it's 30 minute, and then they have a 30-minute pre-show as well, where they're just talking and revealing small stuff. So it's like, the whole idea that you need to have such a long, drawn-out show and have content that's just subpar, with few highlights, and then also have podcast announcements and concerts within. I'm just like, come on, dude, stop wasting our time. Like,
in defense of Metal Hellsinger, that was fire. That was fire. I will say that.
But even still, I'm not just talking about that if it's fire or not, but like, every one of his shows tends to have these concerts or an orchestra or something along with it. Like, Gamescom last year had an orchestra of some sort when they played music from a lullaby, which was fine, but like, it's the same thing. And then last year also for the Game Awards was the same thing. These kind of overindulgent things to put on a Hollywood type spectacle for a video game showcase really does not need to be the thing. And I'd much prefer, if, like, for me anyway, if the shows respected our times. And somebody on Twitter I saw said it, like, and they weren't even being a fanboy. They said they're an Xbox fan and everything, but shows like PlayStation's Showcase are the only ones that get them excited, because they respect your time. They come in, they drop off whatever it is that they need to show off with minimal talking, and then they leave you with all the goods. It's not like an Xbox show where there is this talking and we have so and so many games coming.
Let this sink in.
This and this is going on or anything.
Let this sink in. Xbox had a 6-hour showcase where all they revealed in terms of first party was Microsoft Flight Simulator, Sea of Thieves, and Age of Empires. I shit you not. It was Age of Empires DLC. There was a console DLC for Flight Simulator, and there was Sea of Thieves kind of legacy retrospective and kind of upcoming content talk from developers, with not even a handful of third-party multiplats that are coming to Game Pass, like Life of P.
How can they not have?
It was 6 hours long, bro.
Like sizzle reels going at the minute with the amount of stuff they clearly have in production. How could they not get a half decent sizzle reel out at least? Like,
bro,
I don't understand what they're trying to do. Are they trying to build hype or not?
Bro,
I mean,
bro,
games.
It was 6 hours. It was six fucking hours. I don't know what to say. I'm just like,
What was the point?
Exactly. I mean, I was angry at Sony for showing us a controller and that's it. I'm like, who are you, Xbox? You know, but then I would much rather. Sorry, that was a bad dig. But I would much rather like them not show up at all than to put poor people through that. I mean, flipping it, IGN have been better than this year with exclusive footage that they've been showing. I hate to say it, but you know, they've been showcasing the stuff that I wanted to see, with a few exclusive gameplays and stuff like that, shown first looks. But it's crazy, man. But 6 hours, man. 6 hours for that. I don't know what I would have done if I had been one of those people who had sat through that for 6 hours to just end up.
I know what I'd be saying if Sony made me do that shit. I'm telling you now, I'd not be happy.
Because this is where I'm at, right? I'm like, Sony, you have some 25 first-party games in development, 40 if you include second-party projects in the works, like Final Fantasy 16, etc., etc. You have no freaking excuse if you show up to a big event like Gamescom and you show us God of War Ragnarok, and that's it. Like that's but so Microsoft are in the same boat. Don't they have like shitloads of Bethesda projects in the work? What about Fable? What about Avowed? I mean, I posted a funny meme on Twitter that I made quickly. I'll quickly show it you because I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty funny. But like, what was that game? What was that game that came? Here it is. Weird Song, right? Here we go. I'll get the screen right for you guys. Every Xbox fan 5 minutes ago, and this is how I felt. I saw the screenshot, this thing pop up on the screen from industry veterans that brought you Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas. All right, so people from Obsidian, The Elder Scrolls v Skyrim, Dragon Age Inquisition, Fallout 4, The Outer Worlds. So it's either a Bethesda game or it's an Obsidian game. And I'm thinking, Avowed. It's Avowed. Nope, it's Weird Song. And I'm just like, we saw nothing but a CGI trailer, and I'm hyped for it. As in, I'm sure it will be a fantastic RPG because it's from industry veterans who made all those games. But like, where is Avowed, man? Where are these games that we've been waiting? That we saw CGI trailers of 4 years ago, and Xbox had 6 hours, 6 freaking hours to show something. 6 hours.
I think we'll get better stuff at this year's Video Game Award.
Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
How many times have we got to wait, Deezy? How many times? I've been waiting since Connect.
Look, they've announced.
I'm sick of it.
Look, man, I hear you, but I'm just trying to throw my Xbox fans and my Xbox friends a bone here. Like, it's got to give at some point, right? This whole year, they have everything that they've wanted has been delayed out. I think, you know what? I was expecting Deathloop to be announced this year for Xbox, because September is rolling. September is next week, and PlayStation has a year's thing with that, and that year is almost expiring. So, like, where the fuck is Deathloop? You know, that was all. That was all everybody kept talking about. That's all everybody kept talking about. Deathloop became a meme. So I'm just like, where's Xbox's turn for Deathloop?
What is going on, bro? What is going on? It's like,
yeah. So,
where's the oomph
like,
there?
I'm just trying to throw them a bone. Like I said, I expect stuff will be announced that I expect this year will be far more heavy in terms of Xbox news, because Honestly, shit's gotta give.
Yeah,
Shit has got
honestly,
to give.
you throw them any bone you can, bro, and they'll be gnawing at that
Shit's
bud
gotta
boy like.
give. Yeah,
Because
shit's gotta give.
they fucking need all the
That's
bones they can
something-
get right now.
Shit's gotta give. I'm ready. I'm ready for those. I'm ready for those gamers who bought an Xbox to finally feel like they have a box worth owning that they could be happy about.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to enjoy Starfield. I want them to enjoy Redfall, which absolutely looks fucking good.
I want to be jealous, bro. I want to be jealous. I want to be like,
I
shit, I can
saw-
play all this on my PC, but I want to buy an Xbox just to experience these games on my 4K telly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's how I want to feel.
I saw the Redfall dev diary that
It's good.
Arcane has done. It looks fantastic. I was like, wait a goddamn minute here, Arcane, what you doing? What you doing, fam?
Mate, Arcane,
This
they are
looks better than-
talented, man.
I know.
They are
Yeah, I was like
talented.
saying, wait a minute, this looks better than Deathloop. Hell of a lot better than Deathloop.
Yeah.
So
Look at Atomic Heart as well. Atomic Heart is we're sleeping on this game, fam. It looks phenomenal, absolutely amazing, guys.
you know what? I saw the extended gameplay trailer that was not in the release. That was not in the showcase itself, and I was stunned.
Mhm.
It looks fantastic.
It looks incredible. It looks like a Bioshock, true spiritual successor, but whilst remaining original and unique with immersive sim elements. It's kind of got that whole Bioshock meets Prey, but steampunk thrown in. Mate, it just looks freaking incredible. Scary, exciting, amazing combat. It looks like something Arcane.
Very dystopian. I'm looking forward to it. The thing that got me most wet from that though was Callisto Protocol and Lies of P.
Yeah,
Lies of P. Both of those stole the show for me. And I mean, there wasn't much to the show to begin with, but those two, I think, above everything else. Mostly because I'm dying for a Bloodborne remake, remaster, sequel, something. And Lies of P looks like virtual successor to Bloodborne. They have the entire Miyazaki formula down, more so than any of the other Soulsborne clones. More so than, like, I saw that and I said I would buy that over Elden Ring. You know, because of how it just captured the whole mystery of Bloodborne and the gothic kind of the gothic design spectrums and everything that they've taken inspiration from. And like, yeah, man, it looked fantastic. I can't wait for both. I can't wait for both of those games.
I'm really sorry. I'm gonna have to wrap this up pretty quickly. I do apologize, guys. It's just one of them things. But does anybody else have any highlights as well they want to quickly share about Gamescom?
Yeah, if I may indulge for a moment.
Go for it.
One of the main ones that I wanted to highlight is a game, Australian game by Drop Bear Bytes, is a developer. It's called Broken Roads, and it's been a lot of the reviews. It's been on PC for a little while. It's an indie game, but a lot of the reviews are comparing it to Disco Elysium, and that sort of top-down isometric.
What's it called?
Style of RPG. Broken Roads game.
You're very quiet. Can you speak a bit closer to your mic? Sorry, Volk.
Hello.
There we go.
Is that better? There we go. Sorry, it's called Broken Road. It's a game by Drop Bear Bytes. You'll find them on Twitter. They're pretty cool. They've put a lot of time and effort into building that one.
Holy shit!
Basically,
the
from the ground up.
Giving it
It's a small studio.
It's
It's awesome. And another one I'll just point out, Moving Out 2 and Cult of the Lamb. I know Cult of the Lamb's already out and been playing, but that studio that that built that. They've done a couple of others, or got some other stuff in the pipeline as well. So keep an eye on those guys.
Australian team as well, are they?
Yep.
Wow.
Moving out two, so that Moving Out Games got a second one coming. I thought that one was pretty cool. It's got a really powerful. The first one had a really powerful story. This one will be pretty good. One that got announced, I don't recall seeing it expressly at Gamescom, but one that got announced was as a New Zealand gaming company called Weta, or WETA.
Mm-hmm.
They're doing a game. They teamed up with Private Division to do a Lord of the Rings game. So keep an eye on that one.
David, I wanted to ask you real quick on that. The Weta Studios, or Weta, is that the same Weta that is Peter Jackson's company that does the statues and that stuff? Is that the same one?
Maybe.
You mean Weta Digital?
Yeah.
Are they a part
They've been
of?
around for a while.
Weta, I believe they're Weta Digital, and Weta Digital actually, they're not a game making studio per se, but they have a very, very, very strong tie to the video game industry because a lot of game companies use them for creating promotional cinematic trailers off of their IPs. So all the cinematics that you've seen for like Destiny, so Bungie uses them all the time for whenever they're announcing a new expansion, and all the actual CGI stuff. So like the Lightfall announcement trailer was done by Weta and Weta Digital. Uncharted, so like Uncharted 3, the first Uncharted for PS3, Drake's Fortune, that not the announcement trailer, but the commercial trailer that they used to promote it, which was full CGI and everything like that. They did that as well. They've also done work with Onimusha 3, Onimusha 2. They've done work with Capcom. They've done stuff for Microsoft with Halo. Like I said, they have a storied history. So the fact that they've now decided to cross over and get not just into making video game trailers, but CGI trailers, but actually making video games is pretty interesting.
It falls directly into what Michael Monbauer was saying. The skill set that Visual Arts built up allowed them to move into being game makers, not just game helpers. And it's amazing how these things go hand in hand. The modding community on Duke Nukem Forever 2001 restoration project, we had 3 of them on, and they're hoping to get into the actual game development as a profession, and modding has helped them do that. So a lot of the skill sets in these things are transferable, whether it's CGI or...
You know what, it's funny because Bethesda actually hired a lot of the modding community. Did plenty of work for Skyrim and Fallout, and Bethesda actually went and hired swaths of these people and brought them in because they needed help with modernizing. The source code for the creation engine so that these mods could work and everything. So,
amazing.
Yeah.
Any other highlights, guys? David or Doomsayer or Retro?
I did not watch the show, so I can't say anything.
Go on, Folky.
I was going to say that's pretty much it for me. I thought the Metal Hellsinger piece was that was probably the highlight of the whole Gamescom bit for me. I understand why Jeff does what he does. He's trying to really hype, and I don't mean any disrespect, but he's doing that American overhype thing, where something that is pretty, I suppose, shouldn't say average. It's like the, you get the pre-match entertainment for a basketball game or a football game or something. They get it, and then just massively build it up and build it up and build it up, not knowing how it's going to be received, and then it could be a hit, it could be a flop. The worst thing that happens is you get what happened here, and it's just middle of the road average. People don't hate it, people don't love it, but it's just in the middle of the pack, and it's just mid. Grab everyone.
It's just mid, yeah.
It's mid, and it doesn't help. I shouldn't say it doesn't help anyone. If you're going to have an opening night live, and you're going to have 2.5 hours or 3 hours, however long it is, where it could have been condensed into an hour, and just shorten the segments a bit and have a couple of them throughout the period, rather than here's opening night live and we're going to spend most of it talking. But because people just tune out, which is sad.
And the damn awards too, man. Like,
yeah. I mean, you look at the concert, the Metal Hellsinger concert. Like the game had a little snippet in the opening night live, buried in amongst everything else. But when they actually got their time to show and shine, that thing hit. And you look at all the feedback on all the reports that are coming back. I think that was one of the biggest things of the whole event was that show, that concert, and it brings attention to the game in a way that a lot of people wouldn't have thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was my highlight.
No, I agree. I'm really sorry, guys. I got to rush this. It's just something's come up, and I'm afraid I've got to do one. I do apologize for cutting it short. But yeah,
long. What are you talking about? You start at 9. It's 11:30.
I agree.
It's a long one.
Yeah, but facts. It's been absolutely amazing. Shout out to. I want to just give a quick shout out to a few people. You know how we like to keep things real on this podcast, and tonight has been a prime example of that. Like the things that have been discussed have been amazing hallmark moments where shit has gotten broken down, the penny's been dropped, and people have gone, holy shit, yes, that makes sense, and things are just broken down. Well, there are certain people in the community that also keep things real, and I just want to give them a quick shout out. You've got Worry Wart Gaming. Give him a follow. He's on Twitter, the Worry Wart Gamer or something like that, I think his name is. Type in Worry Wart into YouTube. You'll come across his channel. He's fantastic. He keeps things real. Brap, you all know Brap, but I really like Brap. I love how he articulates himself. He really does keep things real, and the way that he does his research, he's not lazy, and he can debunk any rhetoric that he doesn't agree with very, very well, and definitely would love to have him on the show one time soon. Doomsayer as well. He has a great entertainment value, and we've had the privilege of having him on the panel tonight. But he has a great show with Retro, man. They both have a great thing going, and they speak a lot of sense. Not too sure about the middle-aged gamer guy that you have on the show, but well, and the other plonks, but you, bro, you keep.
I want to make clear, I do not choose the guests.
I
just go with the flow.
Yeah, but for real, like you keep it real, and I love your show. So, but yeah, guys, it's been amazing. All of you in the chat, you've been incredible tonight. I really hope you've enjoyed it as I have. And I would love to discuss the Forspoken trailer. I'm really sorry that I couldn't. I didn't have time. Bender of strings. To discuss that. Personally, I think it's changed completely my opinion of the game. The combat looks incredible. The world still needs work, in my opinion, especially NPCs and the way the cities feel lifeless, but the combat looks so impressive, and that's all I'll say on that. But yeah, unfortunately, guys, I really do have to go, so let's wrap this one up. Deezy, where can we find you, man?
You can find me at you can find me at Deezy Devs on Twitter. My gamer takes aren't as well. I wouldn't even say takes. My input these days aren't as much because I'm still going through personal stuff. But you all can find me there if you, like I said, if you want to pick my brains or anything. I love answering questions about the game industry. I work as a dev in it. And so you could always get my opinions on certain things, and like if something major happens where I feel compelled that I need to dispel something, I will share it there for sure, or get on the soapbox here and chop it up with my mates, my friends on this lovely podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, appreciate you, bro. Retro, where can we find you, my guy?
You can find me on Twitter, XTSXRetro. And if you want to add me on PSN or Xbox, my usernames are in my bio. You can also catch me on the Doomsayer shows, usually Friday and Saturdays, although we got a show tomorrow at some point, but Doom can plug that.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Mr. Faulkner, absolute killed it tonight. Where can we find you, buddy?
You can find me sitting in my kitchen at the moment, having a cup of coffee.
Love it.
Other than that, you can find me on Twitter at Forky87. Hanging around here on the podcast. If you got any questions, queries, or comments about stuff that's been spoken about tonight, hit me up. If you can't get me in the DMs, hit me up tag me in a post, and I'll do my best to help you out. As usual, I say this every time. I'm not into the console wars bullshit. Just don't even bother.
Drives you up the fucking wall.
So. It does.
Folky, I figured out the name.
You want to have a proper chat?
I figured out the name for your show. Up the wall.
That's it. Up the wall. Yeah.
Up the wall.
Yeah, no,
honestly,
that one's. It's still in. I know I've been saying for ages it's coming. It is coming. It's just there's a few other factors at play at the moment that are sort of holding me back from launching it. So
everybody saying Woolley,
Woolley,
Faulkner, what a get, man, what a get. Like honestly, people are willing and ready to hear you, bro. Honestly, if not here on your own show, anywhere you are, you speak a lot of.
I'll be
facts.
tuning in, and I'll be tuning in, and I'll be linking and whatnot. So
absolutely, same here. Right, guys. Last but by no means least, Mr. Doomsayer himself. Thank you for being on the show, brother. It's been an honor. Where can we find you?
How does it feel? How does it feel getting last? Huh? Now you know how I feel.
Listen, I love being last because I don't feel as if I'm that important, so it's good. I appreciate it. Woolley, I want to sit there and say congratulations on the 900. I didn't want to tweet it to you because I wanted to say it to you. And like I've told you before, I will be the first person when you hit 1,000. I will be the first person to be, joining that crowd and that stuff. So,
well, it means a lot, man. It really does. Honestly, the show wouldn't be here without you guys. So,
well, you've helped out a lot, like I've said, and I much appreciate it. And tomorrow, like Retro was saying, tomorrow at 3:00 we have. Besides myself, Mr. Retro, Mr. David Faulkner, we have William Aguilar that is going to be joining us as a guest tomorrow, and then Callie Rex is going to come in and go over some Embracer group stuff. But that's tomorrow. It's going to start around 1:30 because I'm going to do my rant before I go and really do the show because I don't want to cut David or William off. So. Tune in 1:30 tomorrow. The real show will start around like 3:00.
Oh, wait, you don't mind cutting me off?
Well, you can come in. You're always welcome to come in. Oh, I love you, dude.
All right, but you guys get a room.
Philip, what's up your ass? What's up your ass tonight, Phil? What's going on?
He's called Phil. He's called Phil. That's his problem.
But I'll be seeing you tomorrow, Retro. So, but hey, Woolley, thank you very much for inviting me and that stuff. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Awesome. Right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. This is the Worldwide Company of Gamers. It's been a freaking honor. Absolute awesome show. You've all been lit tonight, and we will all see you next time. Do not be a donut. Use your noggin. Peace.
Peace.